Righty-ho. Papanui-Innes-Central, please. Welcome.
Kia ora koutou, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. As usual, we're just going to give you a quick rundown on what's been happening in our board area over the past month. So at our August meeting, we had a couple of public forum presentations. The first requesting a small dog park in Fortune Playground Park, and the second from a resident who has been living with noise pollution from neighbouring construction projects for the past 4 years. She's been dealing with council staff over that time about the issue, but came to us asking for changes to be made to the existing limits. We've been in touch with our local MP on her behalf, as the standards are set by the government. Additional tolerance over and above the district plan is provided when assessing what is considered excessive noise from a construction site. In this particular instance, the noise is exacerbated by the length of time the resident has been dealing with the construction noise. Council's noise control staff have been dealing with the resident but are limited as to what they can do by the relevant national standards. At that meeting, we also approved some short-term parking restrictions on North Avon Road, as well as dealing with our Strengthening Communities funding for the year. We granted just over $200,000 to 36 community groups and organisations, on top of the $392,000 multi-year funding we had already committed to 16 other groups. All of these groups are doing such amazing work in our community, so it's great to be able to support them in this way. We also set up our board project fund for the year and funded some replacement community seating at St Paul's Anglican Parish, Papanui.
We Are Richmond have now held 2 community mural painting sessions to contribute to the revitalisation of Petrie Park. The former bowling green at Petrie Park is in the process of being converted into community space, and the murals feature local dogs that use that park. The concept there in that space is urban forest with dog-friendly and nature play elements as well.
Here are some photos showing the latest planting days at Lancaster Park, one with the community and another for park staff, plus some other staff and elected members you can see there.
Some random.
The park is looking great with all the new planting and is a well-used space for the local community.
You haven't got the pictures of the lawnmower racing.
I'm sure those trees are in the right place, Mr Mayor, too. The board continues to support the community in the McFarlane Park area in Shirley, including by funding a new smart bin adjacent to the basketball court and play space there. And also we have funded a CEPTED review, a crime prevention through environmental design review of that park. Those are both supported by our Better Off funding. And we've had some really positive feedback in response to the restoring the bin that needed to be there.
So our community board members have been out and about over the last few weeks presenting our community service awards. Instead of us hosting an event, we take our awards out to the recipients in their place of volunteering and get to make a big deal out of them in their space and surrounded by their families, friends and fellow volunteers. It's a real buzz to do this. We'll often get shown around the place by them and get to see firsthand what they do. In these photos we've got Paminda Cow from the Women's Helping Hand Trust, Julie Crook from the Richmond Community Garden and Veg from Phillipstown Community Hub, and we'll have some more deserving recipients to show you next month.
Early in August, on a fresh winter morning, elected members, council staff, contractors, members of the public, including students from Te Kura o Matarangi Northcote School and mana whenua came together at Barnes Reserve to celebrate the formal opening of the recently completed sections of the Poari ki Pūhare Kikinui Northern Line cycleway. Northwood and Belfast are now connected right through to Riccarton and the central city with 7.5 kilometres of shared path. It's really great for the community, particularly those sort of on the north end of that path and cycleway, to have that connection and those missing sections now completed.
And that is us. Thanks.
Excellent. Pauline.
Thank you. Can I just please just add a little bit to that noise issue that we had from our resident that came in? That this woman and her husband and their cat have been subjected to this noise for, I think, about 5 years. Now, no one's particularly in the wrong here, but what she's trying to raise is issues around the chronic exposure for that level of time. So our district plan, we've got a 50 decibel limit for residential areas, but for construction areas, they fall under the government limit, which is 70 decibels, with a maximum of 85 for short periods. So that's considerable difference. What she thought would be helpful is if residents who are having a construction put up next to them could see a schedule of works, like a timing of what's happening, particularly around when your water has been cut off and your power's been cut off, your access to your property's been blocked, and she'd also like to see outdoor radios banned, because there's actually no need for those anymore. You can wear headphones. And also, and this is interesting with our dog bylaw being reviewed, dogs on the sites, because they did have an issue with the dog continually barking until he removed it after a few weeks. So I think that's something that we could look at as a council, and I think, Tim, you might remember this, we looked at a couple of times kind of constructing a code of conduct that might go out with a resource consent, just to remind construction workers to be considerate of your neighbours. So there's just little things here that we might be able to look at. So so currently it's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m, 6 days a week. The noise limits apply. So that's 11 hours a day for 6 days a week. Public holidays is to be no noise, but she claims that this was being breached continually. She's also questioning whether we have enough resource to have effective enforcement. But of course, we all know that sometimes the enforcement teams come out, they'll advise someone there's a problem, when they leave it starts again. So there's all that sort of stuff. So the board chair did write to the local MP, Duncan Webb, requesting that perhaps they have a wee review of the statutory limits for construction consent, with that chronic exposure in mind. So I just wanted to raise that to see if there's anything we could pick up.
It's a real shame that there's some that breach it, because there are other sites that are very that contact their neighbours and are very considerate, and so these guys obviously are making a kind of a bad name for all. But I wonder if we could talk with our enforcement team and seeing what resources they have and what they need, because as you say, you know, like if it seems like if we need to support our teams to be able to enforce these things. So yeah, maybe that's a discussion we need to pull
one thing that I think we need to say, and I might be wrong, is this was a person working on his own property, and he was working every hour God gave him to do it, and that's what didn't help the situation. Building companies generally don't work on a Saturday and Sunday anyway, so that it's just in this isolated spot. Councillor Johansson, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely support us looking into this. I too have had complaints from residents adjacent to where mainly high density residential is being built, and there's disruption that it's caused through all hours of the morning. So I think it absolutely needs to be looking at it. Also, our district plan is silent on vibration. So vibration can actually be really annoying for people. And we have one of the most permissive district plans in the country, basically, and we need to start looking at some of the things that are impacting on people's well-being and look at what the controls that we have, particularly around noise and vibration.
But we do need to know what our ability is to enforce anything. So that's the first step. Is let's talk with our teams.
Moving right along.
So
do you want a
through
resolution?
the chief executive, how can we pick this piece of work up? What would be an
We need to
appropriate-
wait for PC14. We can't do anything until that's finished.
Beg your pardon?
We need to wait to PC14, but
Nothing happens overnight. Okay, leave it with me.
Okay, that was going to happen today.
do you want to move the resolution?
Thank you very much. Good on you.